fantastic. So, roll, we're good to go. Okay, so first, I'm gonna break down the actual position of north-south, okay? Most people have at least a tenuous grasp on what north-south is. It's past the point where you could call it side control, basically past a 45-degree angle from the shoulder. So what most people understand as north-south. Now there are three major types of north-south. Okay, there's a north-south that's very effective for pinning and controlling. There's a type of north-south that's very good for initiating a scramble and opening up space and creating movement, which is great for lighter fighters. And then there's my personal favorite. It's a specialized position that I call sword and shield. It's kind of a mix of the two that allows you to attack from your good side while pin the other side. Okay? So the first position that I'm going to show is the pinning north-south, but I'm going to show how to get there from side control the way that I normally do it. Because even if you don't play with north-south a lot, every one of you knows the position of side control. Okay? Hopefully. So, we're going to start with a standard side control here. I have his arm trapped, and I've got a crossface here, and I've joined my hands under the shoulder. Okay? This is a pretty standard kind of pinning side control. Okay? This doesn't leave me with a whole lot of options for attacking Corey until I move my elbow around to the other side. Okay? This allows me to attack this arm easily, but it also allows the easy transition to north-south. So this is one of the first steps to transitioning to north-south properly. Okay? Getting a good side control, moving the elbow around. Okay? That's kind of the first step. I need a good connection right here underneath the armpit. Okay? For a couple of reasons. Next, I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to put it behind this hip. I can do that without sacrificing a lot of control. From here, even if he's bucking around a little bit, I can place that hand without having to take my weight off of his chest to neutralize the bridge. Okay, let's just move back to the camera range. So, 2 steps. 1, move the elbow around, connect here. 2, put this hand on the ground past his hip. So I turn around. This is what I'm doing. Okay? I'm not holding the hip, I'm going past the hip and then connecting with the ground. Okay? I want to add the friction value of the floor to the force I can affect Corey's body with. Side control. Elbow, connect here. Other hand, connect here. Next, I'm going to start to move my legs. Okay? When I move my left leg, in this case, the lead leg, I'm going to try to crowd Corey's head and arm with it. Okay? So I'm not going to try to move around Corey's head, because that allows him to frame against my hip. I need this to go up here. Okay? Side control, elbow connects, connect to the floor on this side, and crowd the head and arm as I move past here. Okay. That's the first thing I want you guys to try. You're just going to go through it a few times. Easy against no resistance, just getting used to the steps. Side control, elbow on the other side, hand to the floor past the hip, and crowd the arm to the head as you move around to north-south. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Grab a partner, give it a try. I actually had a question that brought up a good point to cover. That is one of the things that I love most about north-south, and that is that conventional defenses that people learn for side control don't translate to defending against north-south. And one of those things is a frame rate. He was asking if you do the same transition if her arms are tight in like this. Okay? The short answer is yes. I'm going to move this elbow here, this hand here, and I'm going to move. But this brings up that point I was talking about where these frames for him are extremely effective for defending side control and keeping my weight off of him. But as soon as I make the transition to north-south, those frames don't do him nearly as much good. So the conventional theory of defending against side control actually, first of all, kind of funnels you into north-south. Second, it becomes much less effective once you're there. So that's a great way to think of it. So everybody's doing a great job of that transition now. So we're gonna talk about the actual north-south position. The first one we're gonna work on is pinning. The pinning north-south is defined as both of my elbows and both of his armpits. Okay? So if we look at this, you know, in a kind of a reasonable response sort of way, once I make this transition, he's going to be trying to defend himself. He's going to be trying to bridge, he's going to be trying to bump me as I crowd his head and make this transition. I'll end up here. Okay? So both elbows in his armpits. Okay? Now, here's why this is good for pinning. Basically, you don't need to worry about the hips too much. Okay? You're too far from the hips to affect them anyway. If you're trying to totally nail somebody down in north-south, it's not going to work. The reason why this works really well as a pin is because he feels like he can escape, which means he's going to waste more energy. Okay? I'll show you what I mean. When I pin him in north-south, I really only need to do two things. Number one, I need to keep some weight on his shoulders. Number two, I need to align my body the opposite of where he's bridging. Okay? I'll show you what I mean by that. This line created by my head and my torso and my hips. If he wants to bridge to his right, I point it left. If he bridges left, I point it right. Okay? That's literally all I'm doing. If he bridges this way, I point that alignment this way. And I just switch it back and forth. But because he still feels as though he has the freedom to bridge and roll, he's going to keep on trying. I want him to get 90% of his escape 90% of the time. As long as he doesn't get that last 10%, he's going to burn himself out really quickly, which is then the optimal time to switch to one of the attacking north-south positions. But I pin him first. Now, quick note for the lighter fighters. Corey does weigh more than me, but we're pretty close. If somebody who's 150 pounds trying to do just the switching of the alignment, they might still find that he can make enough space to get to his knees and escape. So you guys have to do something a little different, which I'll show you right now. Basically, you're going to hip spike the shoulder that's trying to come up as a result of the bridge. The hip spike is just as you imagine it. You're just spiking the hip down on the shoulder. The key is to do it quickly. Okay? We look at force equals mass times acceleration. That's all we're looking at here. You don't have as much mass to use, so you have to accelerate it faster. Okay? So if Corey's starting to bridge up, and I'm too light just to turn my alignment, he might be able to tripod and get to his knees here. That's not good for me. Okay? It's manageable, but it's not good for me. Okay? So instead, what I'm going to do, if I can't just defend it with my alignment, as soon as he starts to bridge, okay? Turn your hips quickly, nail that shoulder down. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're light, it'll still work as long as you do it quickly. Make up for the lack of mass you have to use with the speed. Okay? As long as you do it quickly, you should be able to keep that shoulder from coming up enough for him to tripod, and that's all you need. Beyond that, the more energy he wastes, the better. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so skip ahead to where you're here, because you're all doing a great job of the transition anyway. You can add it later once you've got this. But practice this. Get both your elbows into both the armpits, and first just practice changing your alignment. He starts to bridge. I'm literally just changing where I'm pointing. That's all it takes. Don't overthink it. Okay? Back to your partner. Give it a try.
He's a very strong guy. So he's great. One, we didn't actually try it much, but he was just bench pressing me off of him. Is there something you can do to sort of counteract that movement as well?
Well, my first instinct is armbar.
Well, yeah, but.
Basically, you want to crowd more with your elbows so that it flares his elbows out more. Basically, if you want to create a strong pressing mechanic, your elbows should be tight to your ribs. So if you crowd more and flare his elbows, that pressing motion is going to be nearly as strong. I'll show you on Corey here. Okay. So it depends on his hand position, and once again, what I'm doing with my elbows. Usually flaring out his elbows is going to be kind of automatic when I'm in this position anyway, because he can only get as close to his body as the width of my arms anyway. Okay? But all it takes to flare them out even further is just move my elbows out a little bit more. They have to be in his armpits, but they don't have to be totally tight to his body the whole time. If I just move them out a couple inches, that's going to nail his elbows out in this flared up position, which is not a strong pressing position. So even though Corey is very strong, he can bridge and try to press, but if his elbows are flared out, he's not going to have an easy time. Okay, give it a try. Okay. So if I move my elbows from here to here, it keeps his elbows flared out, so he can't press as easily. Okay? If you allow him to get his elbows here, you might be in trouble. And then break his arm. In self-defense.
At the club.
Yes. Hey, you try to defend your north-south. That's the streets, man. Anyways, the other kind of extreme of north-south is not the elbows underneath, but both hands underneath the armpits. Okay? Obviously, you don't have nearly as much control, so this is what you would do if you don't want to have control, if you want to initiate a scramble. Okay? Those of you that have my elemental jiu-jitsu manual, if you're fire types, you're probably going to want to use this style, because this allows you to attack the neck or the arms on both sides whenever you want. It's a little more versatile for attacking. Okay? I don't personally like it, but some of you guys might, so I'm going to teach it. So, here. Okay, I've still got the same kind of control. I'm just going to have to be more mobile. I have to be prepared to get off my knees, because when he starts bridging, he's naturally going to be able to open up a lot more space. Okay, so I'm going to be able to move around here. Okay? But the advantage, of course, is that when he starts to bridge and he opens up that space, I can attack. So once again, if you're lighter, faster, more mobile, if you like to initiate scrambles and open up space so that you can snatch a limb, this is a great way to do it. Okay? Also great if you like guillotines. Okay? Why? Because one of the most effective means of defense from north-south that Corey has is trying to get to his knees. Okay? So if I'm controlling him enough that his bridge is difficult and slower than it would normally be, and he manages to get all the way over onto his knees, it's a lot easier for me to snatch a guillotine. Okay? So depending on the type of game you like to play, this is the better north-south for controlling him enough that his bridge is going to be slower and more predictable than usual, but still able to open up more space. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. So try this one now. It's going to be different, but you can try that armbar, you can try the Kamora, though I haven't taught the Kamora in detail yet. Most of you should have at least a rudimentary understanding of the Kamora. Or you can try the guillotine if your partner is able to bridge and get all the way to their knees. Okay? Just quickly, let's try this. So, I saw quite a few of you trying the guillotine. Great technique to use from here if you have a big, powerful bridge and tripod kind of opponent that likes to get to their knees and then try to take you down off the north-south. It is one of the more effective things that they can do from that position. So it's something you should be prepared for, especially if you want to open up that space. So if you like the guillotine, this is definitely the north-south to do it with. So just to get on that a little bit more, I'm going to put my hands here. When he bridges and tries to go to his knees, what I'm going to do is place my hand here. Okay, so just turn around for it so the camera can see. Oh, this way. Okay? Let's do that one more time. Let's bridge that same way. Okay? Here, I'm placing my hand here on the front of the throat. Okay? So he's just about to his knees. I'm just placing my hand right here on the throat. Okay? Next, I'm going to take this shoulder and put it between his shoulder blades. Then it's easy to connect my hands and sit through to finish the guillotine. Okay? It starts with placing your hand here, then putting the shoulder between the shoulder blades. That's going to allow you to keep enough weight on him that he can't look up. Okay? And it's also going to keep enough weight on him that if he tries to drive forward, he'll go down. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, that's something to play with a little bit later. I'm not really a guillotine guy, it's just something that comes from there easily, if you like to open up that space. So just turn a little bit more here. So now I'm going to show you the kind of north-south that I actually play. This is called sword and shield. Basically, it's kind of a mix of the two positions that we've done so far, the extremes. Okay? This is what it looks like. Elbow in the armpit, one hand underneath the armpit on the opposite side, and then this knee goes past my controlling elbow. Okay? This will be pretty easy to hook up because he's probably going to be trying to grab around me. It's a pretty common reaction for north-south. It's not correct, but it's common. Okay? So this is what it looks like in this angle. I have this arm here. I'm grabbing underneath the armpit here. And I move this knee past my elbow that's on the ground controlling. Okay? This is sword and shield. Okay? I'm totally immobilizing this shoulder so that the only arm he can possibly bridge with is coming from this way. And I've permanently planted the alignment of my body, as we were practicing doing before, towards that bridge. So I've completely immobilized this shoulder, and my alignment is pointing this way. So he could bridge this way all he wants, and he might feel like he can do that, but it's not actually going to get him anywhere. So once I've solidified this position, it's pretty easy to hold it, no matter which way he bridges. Okay. Meanwhile, this arm is easy to attack the whole time, because this side of the north-south position is actually still a free attacking position. Okay? So we're going to play with that, and then go back to the side control thing. Try transitioning to whichever of the positions you find best. But sword and shield is pretty easy. I start in side control. Okay? I make the transition. This hand's already placed. Then it's just a matter of sliding this in. If he allows this arm to be stuck here, that's even better, as long as it's not here. That's kind of a pain, but it's pretty easy to deal with. Just get it in. Okay. So try the sword and shield position, have your partner buck around as much as they want. It's pretty easy to hold, and then try going to it from side control. Does that make sense to everybody? Fantastic. Take a shot. Great stuff, everybody. Okay. First off, there were a couple of questions I got from select groups, but are there any kind of general questions now? Nothing? Everybody's doing great? Awesome. I want to talk about when people grab around the back. Okay. This is pretty common, and I theorize that the reason they grab around the back is because they feel like they have underhooks. Underhooks are one of those things that are a great thing to have in pretty much any position, except for underneath mount and underneath north-south. Even underneath mount, I think you can argue it. It'd be weird, but they definitely don't want underhooks this way, because the underhooks are upside down. Right? If he grabs around my back, which is a really common thing for people to try to do, this doesn't help him at all. Okay? What it does do is it kind of stalls me a little bit. Okay? The other things I want to do to attack him from here are going to be harder when he has these hands wrapped up. Okay? I can pin him easily, but I want to submit him. Okay? So I'm going to show you what to do to break that grip and possibly get a submission in the process. It is what's called an inverted arm triangle. I used to do this quite a bit when I was a blue belt. Not quite so much anymore through purple belt and brown belt, because I was rolling with purple and brown belts at that time. So usually at a higher level, people will recognize what's happening and undo the hands. Either way I win. If I get a submission out of it, great, but it'll at least make them undo the hands. They have to in order to deal with this choke. Okay? Here's what it looks like. He's going to clasp his hands around, okay? So it limits my ability to isolate his arms, and I can't get to his neck. Doesn't really help him escape, but it does help him stall me, if that's all he wants to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to control the arms tightly, okay? And I'm going to pick a side. I'm going to go to this side, because that's where the camera is. Okay? I'm going to control this arm this way. The other aspect of this control that I need is for this knee to go to the other side of his head. That way he can't follow my rotation. Okay? So I'm in north-south, he's got his hands clasped. I'm going to isolate this arm and then put my knee on the other side of his head. Okay? If he's still holding on, then I continue. If he realizes what I'm doing and lets go, great. If he doesn't, then I continue. I'm going to put this back here, and I'm going to reach around Corey's head. Then I gable grip and lean forward. Okay? He has his hands clasped. I start to move around. I control this arm, plant this knee. If he doesn't let go, I continue. I go around the head, gable grip, and lean toward his ear. Okay? This is called the inverted arm triangle. Okay? Once again, at a higher level, usually guys will realize that something bad's happening, even if they don't know quite what is happening, and they'll let the hands go. That's all we really wanted in the first place. But if they don't know what's happening, they keep their hands clasped, you continue, might get an easy submission out of it. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to see it again, or do you want to give it a try?
Yeah, do it again.
Yeah.
Are you worried about closing both sides of the choke? Like, is your bicep against the other side, or is it mainly one-sided?
It's usually going to be kind of a one-sided choke,
Like two times?
because here, we turn a little bit, you can see there's actually quite a bit of space on this side. That's okay. As soon as I get the gable grip and lean, I don't quite need coverage on both carotids when I have that much coverage on one side. Right, carotid artery, when you restrict the carotid arteries to get a choke, it doesn't necessarily have to be 50-50. If you're really blocking one side of the neck, they'll still probably choke and tap out. Okay? So don't worry if there's a little bit of extra space over here. Okay? Give it a try, everybody. Make sense, everybody? All right. All right, it's not. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
For the last part of the choke, just connecting your hands, I had trouble getting my hand under the heads.
Okay.
Kind of a trick to get that
Yeah,
space.
great question. You can use the other hand in that case, right? Because he's kept his hands clasped this whole time. Then he's going to stay connected to my center of mass no matter what, unless he lets go, which is what I want in the first place. So if you're having a hard time getting your hand all the way past, use your other hand.
And cradle him.
Okay? Then gable grip and lean towards the ear. Okay? Once again, this isn't something that's likely to be an A-game choke for you, right? Getting the submission is a consequence of just trying to get those hands to untie so you can attack something that's a little higher percentage, okay? This choke is for when they don't recognize what kind of trouble they're in fast enough, and they allow you to just continue right to the end of it, okay? But purple and up, I highly doubt you're going to get this choke the way you just practiced it, because they're going to let their hands go before that. That's the main reason why we're doing this. Does that make sense? Yes?
Don't you still have that arm held up in front? Can you still get it?
Oh.
As long as you still have that arm trapped, can you still get it, whether or not they get
If they let their arms go, then they have more ways to make space and escape the choke. So as soon as the hands come apart, I'm going back to north-south as a general rule. Yes, you can get it, but there are some ways you can lose it if they recognize that it's a bad position and let their hands go. That's at any point in the process. Okay? So my main goal is just to make him let me go, stop stalling. Okay? I'll go for the choke 3-4 times if they want to keep on putting their hands back together. And if they let me go all the way through it, I might get a submission out of it. But I mainly just want them to let their hands go. Okay? Does that make sense? Excellent. Okay, last aspect of the positional part of north-south before we start getting into the Kamora and the north-south choke. Okay? And that is the far side underhook. Okay? This is probably the single best weapon he has to defend north-south, is to get to his side with an underhook across the far side here. If he gets to his knees from this position, then he has a great chance of taking me down. Okay? This also happens when you do the Kamora from north-south and go up with it. Okay? If I lock up the Kamora, which I'll do from this side so we can see it in the camera. If I go for a Kamora on this side, Corey actually has a really good chance of taking me down here. Okay? Because all he has to do is fight to keep this arm really tight to his chest. And if I go up, I actually help him disconnect from the floor so he can get to his knees. And if I hold on to this Kamora, then he can get his head out and posture up. And that'll actually put me on my side. Okay? I'm just going to demonstrate that. Corey, if you want it for me. Let's do it from this side here. Okay? So he goes for the Kamora. Okay? I just have to keep my hand tight so that when he disconnects me from the floor, I go to my knees, tuck that underneath me. If his arms stay connected to it, that's an easy takedown. Okay? So either way, I don't want him to get to his knees, and I don't want that arm across. Okay, that's the thing I'm most worried about when it comes to north-south, is him making enough space to get that underhook across and getting to his knees. Okay? Thankfully, I have a really nice single leg defense that I learned in high school that works really well on it. Okay? And that's what I'm going to show you now. So if he manages to get this, this is how you deal with it. Basically, this works for any time he gets an underhook and comes in to take me down. First thing I need, this. This is what's called a wizard, okay? It's an overhook, tight overhook. Okay? Just turn a little bit so you can see. So that's what I'm looking for. Tight overhook on this near arm. Second thing I'm looking for, hand on the head. Okay? I want to give him bad posture so that he can't take me down. Okay? When his head's looking down like this, he has to deal with that before he can do a takedown. Right? It's not going to last forever, but this is a defense right now. The final kind of blow is this. Okay? If you have a size and strength advantage over your opponent, you can actually just flip them over like this. But the more efficient way to do it is to walk your feet around to the other side. And the superior leverage you have will turn them over. Okay? So, he's on this side as an underhook. Okay? Pushing down here. I'm going to hold this position and walk my feet around to the other side. Okay? So basically, you have to have that in your pocket for either side of this position. And this is for anything. This could be for just a single leg from standing. Anytime he has an underhook, or I'm half guard, this works really well. Okay? He has half guard on me. And an underhook. I can use this to pass half guard. Okay? I'm just going to do the exact same thing. And it works beautifully. Okay? If I have that leverage, and I've got this corner up here completely controlled that way, there's no way he can hold onto my leg with the half guard. Okay? So that's what we're going to have ready. This is what kind of completes my confidence in the north-south position, because I know I have this very effective, very high percentage response to the worst possible scenario for him escaping. Okay? So one more time. If they manage, whether it's because of this Kamora, they get to their side, here, whizzer, head, connect. Okay? Then I'm going to walk around to the other side. And back to north-south. You want to see it again, or you want to try it? Try it is. Okay, go for it. Perfect for any time somebody has an underhook of any kind. Okay? Single leg, basically an underhook. It's an application of underhook control. Okay? So even when it's a standing single leg, if he has my leg, first thing I'm going to do is push his head away with both hands, give him bad posture. Next, leg on the outside of the thigh, open up the space for the whizzer. Once I have this, I just put my weight down on him. Okay. That control will always put them on their back. Okay? Even if they are stubborn and they don't want to roll, they can't stay on their knees. And if they're already off their knees, they can't go back to their knees. Every inch you take, you're going to keep as long as you have this control. Okay? One exception is when people are very mobile with their guards and they can end up centered off with you. Okay? In which case, you go straight into a double underpass. Okay? That's something you might have to do. I'm going to use Calvin for this because actually Calvin is one person where this has happened many times that I've applied this technique with them, is that I've had to go straight into a double underpass with it. Okay, because he's really good at centering off with his guard after I roll him over. So just one here. From here, when I start to walk around, okay, he's good at centering off the guard. I can't get around the legs in one step like I do usually, so I just have to go straight into a double underpass. Okay. So just as having this whizzer control technique in your pocket is going to make you more confident with north-south. Having a great double underpass in your pocket is going to make you much more confident with this whizzer control. Because it's basically the only thing you'll ever run into if you manage to get that control locked up. Questions about that? Yeah? All right, excellent. So, does anyone need a water break or anything, or do you want to just keep on going? So we're going into submissions at this point. All right, let's keep going. All right. Now, I'm going to do the north-south choke first, because the north-south choke has more detail to it than the Kamora that I typically do in this position. The north-south choke is, it goes by a couple different names, so I'm going to call it a pec choke. I think north-south choke is a better name for it. People kind of call it a pec choke when Jeff Monson does it, and then they call it a north-south choke when Jeff Glover does it. Being bigger does help you finish the choke once it's sunken in, but this is not a big guy choke. Okay? This is absolutely something you can do if you're smaller than your opponent. In fact, getting it in the first place, sinking it in, is easier when you're smaller. Finishing it is easier when you're bigger. Okay? It's a lot like the triangle. Long mobile legs help you get the triangle, but if you manage to get the triangle and you have shorter, stubbier legs, it's easier to finish the triangle. Okay? So it's not necessarily like triangle's a tall guy move, north-south choke's a big guy move. There's advantages and disadvantages to every body type and every submission. Okay, so this is absolutely something that any one of you could apply if you want to, but it has to be set up correctly. First step of setting it up correctly, hand on the back of the neck. Plain and simple. That's where I set it up. When I'm in sword and shield, move from here to here. Okay, just hand on the back of the neck. Let's turn a little bit. Just hand on the back of the neck. And this position that I'm in, I'm still kind of off at an angle. Okay? And this is one of the defining features of the north-south choke, the way that I do it. A lot of people are in straight on north-south when they try to sink this choke in. Okay? It doesn't usually work as well. Okay? Especially if the person's crowding their neck with their hands or trying to push you away. I usually set up the choke on an angle and I only finish it in straight up and down north-south. Okay, at the end of the choke, you're going to be in straight up and down, totally aligned north-south. But setting it up is going to be done on an angle from here. Okay? So what I want everybody to try is this motion. Okay, just hop up on your knees or cross your legs, sit down. This motion. Okay? So you got the person at the back of your neck, the back of their neck here. Okay? And I want you to try this motion. Okay? That's the motion you're going to be doing to set up the choke. Okay? When you finish the north-south choke, your knuckles are going to be up. Do not try to finish this north-south choke like this or like this. Okay? And I'll show you why. I want you to look at your arm right here at the bottom of your bicep. Okay? Get over the admiring, and we're going to get down to the technical details. Okay? Now, I want you to try, like, look right at that point, and then turn your hand over. See how it fills in? Okay? When you turn your hand up like this, when you supinate, it opens up a little pocket there. When you turn your knuckles up, it fills in. Okay? That's called supinator brachialis, that muscle that's filling in there. Okay? It's the muscle that does this motion for you, most powerfully anyway. And when your knuckles are up, it fills in. When your knuckles are down, it actually opens up a little pocket that makes the north-south choke muscle much less effective. Okay? That's a huge detail. It's a very simple little thing, easy to forget, especially when you're rolling. It makes a huge difference. Okay? After I set up the north-south choke, I'm here. I'm fully sunken in, but my knuckles are down. Once I turn my knuckles up, it makes the difference between getting the choke and not getting the choke. So knuckles up every single time. Okay? That's where this motion comes from. Okay? I've got my hand on the back of his neck, and I'm going to use my chest, the top of my pec right here. I'm going to use that to turn his chin. And that's one of the things that made me realize that setting it from the side is easier, because when I was setting it up from here, I had to do this sort of motion, like kind of going down and then trying to swipe my whole body across. It was a lot more awkward. But if I'm at an angle, all I got to do is come forward with my chest. It does the exact same thing. So I have sword and shield position. I use my chest to turn Corey's head. Okay? From here, I'm using my chest to turn his head, and I'm straightening my arm and turning the knuckles up. Okay? So as here, I'm turning his chin to the side facing here with my chest, and at the same time I'm straightening my arm and turning the knuckles up. That motion. That's where the choke comes from. I straighten and turn the knuckles up, and I turn his head at the same time. Finishing the choke is a matter of this kind of J motion to get back straight aligned with him. Okay? So I'm going to turn from here to here, and then sink down into the choke. Okay? So after I've set it up on an angle, my body does this J motion to sink it in the rest of the way. Yes? I'm just keeping it here. Most of the north-south chokes I get in rolling and no-gi are actually one arm. Okay? Connecting and adding the other arm is if you haven't tapped them out yet with one arm. If it's sunken in but they're not tapping, that's when you join the other arm. We can talk about that afterwards. So I want everybody to get the one arm one, because against no resistance, if you're doing this correctly, the one arm variation should be easy. Okay? Once again, I'm in sword and shield. I've got the back of his neck. I'm going to use my chest this way to turn his chin, straighten my arm, and turn the knuckles up. Then I do that J motion to sink it in the rest of the way. So I'm going to set it up on an angle, then finish it straight on. Okay, questions about that? Yes?
Turn your lat into it, or just suddenly?
Not really. I don't want to turn my hips down, or turn my hips that way. I want to stay straight on if I can, this way. Because if I turn like this, then he can bridge, and I could possibly lose it. If I stay straight on, he can bridge, and it doesn't make a difference. In fact, it just opens his neck more. Okay, so don't turn your hips. Good question though. Okay, do you guys need to see one more time, or you want to try it?
Yeah.
One more time? Okay. So, sword and shield, and here I'm controlling, bring my hand to the back of his neck. I'm going to set it up on an angle. So I use my chest to turn his chin, and I straighten my arm and turn the knuckles up. Then I make a J with my body and finish the choke. Okay? Give it a try, everybody. Kamora now. Kamora, first off, just so I know, is there anybody here who doesn't know the Kamora? Okay, some of you I'm not as familiar with, so, okay, so everybody's got at least a tenuous grasp on what a Kamora is. The Kamora from north-south is a pretty well-documented submission, pretty easy place to get it from. But, like I mentioned earlier, going up with the Kamora, I think is a mistake, personally. Just because I know how well that defense works when you connect that arm to the chest and allow them to disconnect you from the floor so you can spin to your knees. It is so easy. Okay? Literally, as soon as I start to go up with Corey, he can get to his knees. And if he's focused on keeping his arm tight to his chest, I'm probably not going to be able to pry it out before he gets to his knees, and I'm over here, off balance. This isn't a good place to get a Kamora from. Okay? So I don't really go up with the Kamora. I try to go across as much as I possibly can. Okay? But what I really want to show you is a Kamora setup from Sword and Shield that I really like. Okay? This is what I call Happy Cat. Okay? This is what the Kamora setup is called. Happy Cat starts like this. Okay, I've got my hand in the armpit here, just as we started when we were doing the north-south choke. Let's just turn a little bit here. Okay? But this time I want this arm. Okay? So maybe he's a guy that's pretty good at defending north-south chokes. He's keeping his chin really tight, or he's keeping his face buried in my chest. Okay? That's an easy way to just stave off the north-south choke for a little longer, so I'm going to attack the arm instead. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go past this arm to gather it. This hand is going to go up onto his chest, and then I'm going to put my chin down in front of it. Like this. Okay? From here to here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into an aligned north-south, and my other hand's going to go to the back of my neck. Okay? So that looks like this. Okay? Now, the reason I do this, okay, is that eventually, if he wants to escape, he's going to have to bring that arm down and in front of my face. Okay? He needs to get my chin up so that he can get onto his side. Especially since now he knows that I need the Kamora. Okay? Because it's pretty clear to him at this point, if I'm doing this, that I want the Kamora. Right? So at that point, the smart money is I'm getting that hand up and over my face and continuing to release. Okay? I'll be forced to transition to here if he does that successfully, which is better than getting Kamora. Okay? So that's where this happy cat position comes from. Okay? Once I've transitioned here, basically as soon as that hand comes down in front of my face, I have the Kamora. Okay? I put my hand on the back of my neck because I don't know where his hand is specifically up here or how fast it's coming down in front of me. And if I were to be more aggressive and try to take the arm rather than waiting for it, if I go far enough back to the back of my neck, chances are the hand is in front of that. Okay? So if I want to be more aggressive with it, I can even gather the arm and just take the Kamora. Okay? I don't like that quite as much. I like to try to crush him a bit first. Okay? So that when he brings the arm around, it's slower and a little more predictable. And then the Kamora is going to be tighter when I put it on. Going for it like that really fast opens up space. If I miss the arm, I might let him go to his knees. Then I'm in trouble. So it's up to you in the kind of game you like to play. You can either just go for it aggressively and open up space and be ready to move, or you can wait, try to crush him down a little bit, put a lot of pressure down here, and then wait for his arm to start down, and then slowly just creep it on. Okay? That's how I usually like to finish this. So from here, okay. This allows me to get the Kamora without taking pressure off of Corey, thereby making it much less likely he'll be able to make me disconnect from him and go to his knees. Okay? And finishing the Kamora, for those of you that might still be doing it this way, I don't like that at all. I go past with this hand, pass with this hand, much stronger position. Okay? So, one more time. Sword and shield. Okay? And then the armpit. Okay? Put pressure down. And I finish the Kamora. Does that make sense? Okay, give it a try. Anybody specific questions? Want to cover a couple of things? Yes?
Happy cat?
My cats do that constantly when they're happy. So,
Right before
yes.
they shoulder lock.
Not about my cats, right?
At the end of the Kimura, I noticed you weren't switching your hips. So is there a problem with switching your hips, or is
Nope.
it fine?
Nope, just opens up more space. If I can keep my chest exactly where it is, that's optimal. Right? A couple things about that though, because some of you have partners that are, once you've had it, you're trying different things, like say holding them down, like just grabbing your hands together. This can make it difficult if he just wants to stall you here, but if you're not as single-minded on the Kamora, like if you really want the Kamora, you're going to have trouble breaking this grip if you want to keep the happy cat position. But pretty easy north-south choke. If he really wants to keep those hands together, just choke him. All right, then if he lets his hands go to try to defend his neck, then you go back to the Kamora. They work in conjunction with each other very well. Basically, if his hands are together, choke him. His hands are apart, Kamora him. Okay? So, a couple things. Number one, if he manages to get to his side once you have the Kamora, hand comes around. Yeah, you're not going anywhere with that. Once you get the Kamora, say he manages to get onto his side, okay? Don't go up too much. So once again, I don't want to disconnect him from the floor. If I disconnect him from the floor, all I'm doing is helping him get to his knees. What you want to do instead is get really heavy on this elbow. In this case, my left elbow. Here. I'm not trying to break the hand out yet, I'm just resisting the roll. I'm just getting really heavy on this elbow. Then the Kamora happens. Okay? I don't go up with it, try to tear it out. That's not what you want to do. Because again, it's like, oh, he got to his side, I got to tear this Kamora out. He'll get to his knees. Okay? If you get the Kamora and he goes to his knees, or tries, get really heavy on this. Works better. Okay? That makes sense? Okay. Another thing, if they bury the hand, okay? This is pretty common, okay? And this is something you have to be really careful with, okay? Because this comes on pretty fast, okay? If I try to go for the Kamora, right, and he buries his hand, okay? What I'm gonna try to do is cinch it up here, okay? He can still bring his leg up and trap it, right? But what I'm gonna try to do is curl my grip higher up on my arm, and then grip my own elbow here. Okay. It's actually a much stronger grip for the Kamora. It's just awkward to set up unless he gives you the time to do it by burying his hand and trying to stall. Okay? Does that make sense?
Can you show one more time?
Yeah, sure. Here. Yeah. Higher up on my arm and my own elbow. Again, kind of awkward to set up if that's what you're actually going for. Like getting this, that's really hard when the guy actually has mobility. But if he takes away his own mobility by grabbing the inside and trying to stall, it gives you the time to set that up. Okay? Let's give that a try. Those two things. So one, you get the Kamora, but you didn't quite separate it from the body enough to finish it right away, so they started to get to their knees. Get heavy on the elbow, they keep trying to go to their knees, eventually the Kamora pops out. Okay? And if you want, you can also try that Kamora variation if they bury the hand in their leg. Okay? Go for it. The issue comes from them taking away their own mobility by burying their hand and trying to stall the Kamora. As long as their hand is buried and they're trying to stall you, you take your time setting up that position. Okay? If the hand comes out, this slides right back down to the Kamora. If they have mobility, you do the Kamora. If they take their own mobility away by trying to stall, cage it up. Go to the Huggy Bear, right? If they realize what you're doing and take the hand back out because they want the mobility back, you slide back down to the Kamora. It's easy. Okay? And then if they grab their hands around you, you choke them. Okay? So questions?
You're pretty efficient there.
Okay, well, sorry, we went a bit late, but that's the last of the material. Okay, so if there aren't any specific questions, then that's where we'll end for today. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. As you probably all know, 100% of the proceeds of this seminar are benefiting the Alberta Cancer Foundation. I lost my mother to cancer in January, and one of the main emotions you feel when you're close to somebody that's going through that is helplessness. Just the feeling like you want to be able to do more when you really can't. But I kind of came to the realization that I do have this. I have my knowledge. I can use this to make a positive impact. If I can get a bunch of people out to learn and use that to benefit the Cancer Foundation. And that's really important because when my mother was alive in the last 2 years of her life, going through cancer, she could not say enough about the quality of care she was receiving, the professionalism, the respect she got, the caliber and the technology that went into treating her. And facilities like the Cross Cancer, where she was getting treated, depend heavily on donations, whether it's the giant corporate donations or smaller events from these or just personal donations. They depend heavily on that to maintain that quality of care. So I'm really happy and thankful that you all came out to support me in this. And with this kind of turnout, I'd be happy to do something like this again, pick another topic.